You are listening to the Hammersley Brothers e-commerce podcast. Like what you hear and want to take the shortcut on your e-commerce growth? Join hundreds of brands that work with us and head over to joinhb.com. That's joinhb.com and see how we can help you further. Join our members and smash your targets and unlock the profits within your e-commerce site. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Yes, Mark. Yes, I'm well. I'm all right. We had what has happened? What's
Nothing.
happened? God, no.
We're two middle-aged
Nothing
men. What
to
do you think
say.
happens? Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh dear.
Not
Yeah.
a lot other than e-commerce chat.
I was watching we did one of the podcast episodes where you were in your car and we were looking at some of the clips that come out. I look like I'm speaking to like a MI6 spy in a car park or something. It's kind of cool.
It was very convenient.
That's as exciting as you get. Yeah.
Yeah.
People, we haven't spoken about the weather for
Saturday
ages.
morning. I know it's travesty. It's because it's rained every day. That's what's happened. It's been consistently crap.
Nobody wants to talk about it.
But I must admit, there I am on Saturday morning, because we have a few e-commerce businesses ourselves that we run for fun on the side. And, I always get up on Saturday morning and I like to look at certain things in our e-commerce businesses. And I always do these really insightful chats about stock. This weekend, I was talking about stock rotation and consolidating SKUs. And what was selling and what wasn't selling. And I did this great video of which I was expecting you to go, wow, Ian, that's so insightful. That's really interesting. And no, nothing. I didn't even get a sniff. I didn't even get a thumbs up.
Look at your videos.
You still haven't watched
Jesus.
Well, this particular
you sent me about,
we're trying to get it to 10
400
million.
videos at the weekend. I'm like,
well, listen, we'll love it. I actually love getting up on a Saturday in my dressing gown, making a really strong coffee and going through all of the KPIs, the numbers on the number sheet for all the e-commerce businesses that we're running. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I'll give you a tip
I'm addicted.
on how to sell more bedding. Don't run out of your best-selling sheets.
Well,
that's it, really.
So you did watch the video. You did watch the video.
No, I haven't. Is it the one way? Oh, God, no. There's just one of you holding a steering wheel or something like that on that one.
Which one that one was? No, that's something else.
Just a picture of you. You just sent me a video of your steering wheel. Anyway, I do believe we should start talking about something interesting. So this is the third in the 5 series of why your ads aren't scaling. And can you remember the first 2 we've done? I know the last one we did. The last one we did was your landing pages suck. Actually, I do know what the first one was. First one was your model. Your model's broken. The second one was your landing pages suck. And today's exciting episode is your ads are boring. So that was the title that we gave that. Do you want to introduce that one whilst I drink my tea?
Well, yeah, I'll introduce it. And I think what I'll do is I'll probe you a little bit about this. In terms of what you mean, because if you listen to this and you're thinking, well, what do they mean? Because, I might have products that are boring and surely the ads don't need to be, really excitingly emotional, if it's a boring, if it's a car battery or it's a replacement fridge hinge, because they're 2 pretty boring products. But so I want to pick your brain on that and what you actually mean. But before we talk about and you answer that question, what I will say is that what this podcast isn't going to go into, because we have done this and covered this many times, and there's some great workshops that we have done in the program that talks about the fundamental metrics and numbers that you need to look at if you're running your Meta ads and your Google Ads account, like what the frequency should be, like what the brand setup should be for Google. Lots of different nuances around that in terms of the numbers and the metrics and things like that, and the click-through rates and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna, but that's all there, and this is more about the bigger things that you might not be thinking about because you've not heard it before. So let me ask you that question again. Why if I've got a boring, because actually we like boring products often, we like selling boring products because we know exactly what problem the customer's trying to solve. So let me give you a quick example. If it's a car battery, we know why they need a car battery, and we know what they care about. We know what they're anxious about. We know what the job to be done is. It's very clear to demonstrate that. And the ads need to be quite simple. So what do you mean? What do you mean when you say your ads can't be boring or your ads are boring?
So if you're there's two main ad platforms, isn't there, e-commerce? There's Meta ads and there's Google ads. And then there's a lot of our people advertise on Pinterest and Bing and those kind of things. But there's two main gorillas, which are Google ads and Meta ads. So if this podcast talks about your ads are too boring, so a lot of that is Meta ads. But if you're selling boring products, you're probably mostly going to be selling on Google ads, because if you're selling car batteries are very intent based. Facebook doesn't know whose battery is about to die, and therefore Google's much better for it. So when it comes to Google, what I'm talking about with this podcast is what the platforms want from you as an advertiser, and who they are going to they are going to promote the most. So if we unpack in this podcast how the platforms work and how they live and breathe and how they thrive, we can then understand how to play the game. So essentially that's what I want to talk about. So if you've got a boring product, and you're obviously going to be on Google, Google's platform is built. Both Google and Meta ads want to keep people using the product. That's their number one rule. Their secondary thing that they want to achieve is they want to get advertisers return on investment. Yeah. So but 1,000 times more, they want to make sure people keep coming to Google and keep coming back to Facebook. Because without the people, they'll be dead. So that's their number one motivation.
I'll just pause you a little bit, and I just want to repeat and unpack a little bit what you've said. So you've used a couple of choice words. You've said the gorillas, for one. And why have you chosen the word gorilla? I know why you've chosen the word gorilla, but why have you chosen the word gorillas?
Because I always talk about the 1,000-pound gorilla in the business, and if you try and go, I've got 1,000-pound gorilla in that corner of the room, and I've got another 1,000-pound gorilla in that corner of the room. I'd really like them to be out there in the garden, sitting over there, and I'd like to put a hat on them. And it's like, well, you can't move them; they're too big. You need to work with them the way they want you to work with them, rather than the other way around. So ultimately, if we unpack how they survive as platforms and play the game how they want to work, with kind of like a Venn diagram where it works for them and it works for us, and there's that overlap in between.
So you're saying they're gorillas in that they're unmovable, and we have to understand how to navigate around them. We have to understand what they want. So you're saying there's two things ultimately that they want. One of them is what they want, and number two is what we want. But they know. So you're saying the first one is they want to keep people in the platform itself. They want people to keep people coming back.
They want to keep people coming back. So Google doesn't actually want to keep people on the platform. So Google is slightly different.
But it wants people to come back to Google again.
They want
They
want you to come back to the useful tool.
Yeah, it knows that if it puts an ad in front of somebody that is crap, they won't come back in the future when they're looking for something. And that's fundamentally it, isn't it? If you had a yellow pages,
so
back
Google,
in the day, you had a yellow pages, and you're trying to find a painter and decorator, and each time you went to the yellow pages and you phoned the painter and decorator, and the phone number didn't work. Eventually, you go, well, this is useless. I throw this out the window. You wouldn't use it again, and it's the same analogy here that the people want.
Google that was the difference between the yellow pages and Google. Yeah, Google could actually straight away tell the experience of the person who they were given a recommendation to after the fact. So if somebody came through, saw a painter and decorator on Google, and then went to the website and then came back immediately, then searched again for painter and decorator, they know that that was a search that wasn't that useful. And so back in the day, you got the early Yahoo and people like that with their pay-per-click. They used to just give the top spot to the top bidder. They didn't have any quality score. Where Google was different. Google was like, well, we'll take bid into consideration, but we'll also take into consideration how useful that search was, because they realized that they needed to make sure that Google was kept being useful for the user, so they keep coming back over and over. And they got metrics on that. And like the Yellow Pages would have been a much better Yellow Pages if they could have actually seen what happened to the people who looked up a children's entertainer or those kind of stuff and go, well, people who see this children's entertainer end up not booking that entertainer, so I'll show them the other one. So it was that. So in terms of Google, you asked the question about...
I'm asking another question about that. Sorry, to just go a bit further. It's one of the reasons why Google became the dominant search engine, isn't it? And the others died out. And the reason is because if you look at some of the other search engines that existed, like, going back in the day, I can't remember. Like I think it was Alta Vista or something, Alta Vista, and there was like Yahoo, obviously.
Yeah,
Alta
they were more
Vista
like
was
platforms and portals, really.
But yeah,
Ask Jeeves as well.
One of the things, like with Yahoo, I think particularly, I think you could pay, the more you paid, the higher you appeared. Whereas Google said, look, we're not just going to put the highest paying ad at the top. In fact, we may well not put the highest paying ad at the top. That actually might go down a few, because nobody's clicking through. And the metrics when they get to the site aren't good. We're actually going to downgrade it. So it would put ads that were better. And consequently, people then felt more reliable. They could go to Google and get a better search result. And that's why, they're playing the long game. Google became the dominant search engine because it was better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that ChatGPT is going to have, and all the AI are going to start productizing, are going to have to go through something similar. They're going to have to, they can't just put, if you're searching for, the best sleep apnea device or something like that, they can't just put the top one that bids the highest at the top, because people will stop using the service. You're there because you want to find the best product. And so there's going to be that balance between the two. So you have to understand how it's working. So in terms of a boring product, if you're selling spare parts, you want to be able to fix the job to be done. So it's the job to be done, isn't it? So you want to have adverts that say, the largest supply of fridge parts in the US or something like that. Like and then the review scores and those kind of things.
Meta? Are you talking about Google?
No, I was talking about Google. Google then. Yeah. You took, because you originally talked about a boring product.
Ads, yeah. No, but I wasn't trying to throw you off and make it hard for you. I was just trying to say, what do you mean by that? Because, we know that products fall into either convincibility, which is problem solving, or desirability, which is, lifestyle. And we've got many e-commerce businesses that are in the program who are doing incredibly well with boring products, and we like boring products because we understand the emotions. I wasn't so because I think you were saying the misconstrued analysis of your title, which you've used for like clickbait, link, whatever's. Because you probably asked ChatGPT to give you some stupid. You've said boring ads.
Your ads are boring.
So, but your ads are boring, and and I can start to see, I can understand that for Meta, which I want you to talk a bit about more. But I think your message isn't about the creative necessarily. Your message is actually that the platforms want you to use their platforms. Facebook wants to keep you in the platform, and Google wants you to keep using their search engine to keep coming back and back and back again. And so it's a slight red herring, the term boring, because I think it's more of a meta term. But I'm going to come down you again. Why have you used the word boring? Explain it better.
I think I've used boring, it is more relevant to meta ads, to be honest. It's more that term, your ads are boring, because if you are selling a boring product on Google, it's more about job to be done. It is. And I think that if you're doing job to be done stuff with spare parts and all that kind of stuff, we've talked about that kind of stuff before, like landing pages, all that kind of stuff. I think the problem I wanted to show people mostly with this podcast was people who are not necessarily because you're talking about that out of the 5 types of e-commerce, you're talking about a need-driven supplier, which is actually quite a small subset of e-commerce business. Now, there's quite a lot of them, but most people who listen to this are probably not need-driven suppliers. They're probably volume retailers or compounders, probably volume retailers or compounders. And both those types will have some optionality to run Meta ads, TikTok ads, those kind of things. I just think is where they're making the mistake.
There was nothing boring about having an ad in Meta that is consistently over a long period of time absolutely crushing it, right? There's nothing boring about that. We're not saying ignore the product. The reason why you've chosen the word boring is because Facebook does not want a crappy ad in Facebook that nobody is clicking on, that people don't want to go, and that's the nub of it, isn't it?
It's so let me take a step back and explain. Yeah, let me explain that. Yeah, so the most boring ads on Facebook on Meta are probably catalog ads, which are product, right? And a lot of people run them and they do work. But if you went to Facebook in the morning and you got up and you just had catalog ad, with no concept of intent, it'd be like being on Google Shopping where Google was trying to work out what you wanted to buy, just random products. You wouldn't stay on that site. So they are boring ads, right? They're the most boring types of ads. The other types of ads that are fairly boring is like Betting Envy 50% off, like just with an offer on it. Yeah. So what's going to happen is if you run ads like that and you try and lead with the top of the funnel, Facebook is going to say, right, if I show these ads to let's say it's Ian's customers. If I show this ads to Ian's prospects, they're probably going to leave Facebook because they don't know who he is. These ads are too boring. What I can do though is I can show the ads to people who know Ian because they know Ian and Ian's doing a range of hats, and I'm going to show the people that know Ian because they're going to be more likely to kind of tolerate this ad without leaving the platform. So the more boring your ads are, the more likely you are to show to people who know you already, because Facebook can show those without people leaving the platform. So you'll see this, and I did a big workshop on this a couple of weeks ago, talking about looking at cost per reach, looking about the ad reach compared to the reach in the whole account, and understanding how that affects what Facebook wants to do for you, with you. And you will see, if you start looking at cost per reach, that some of your ads have a lower cost per reach than others. And the reason they have the lower cost per reach for others is because Facebook can more likely put that hat ad, the Ian's hat brand, in front of new customers because they are interested in it and therefore it can sell. So if you look at some of the big brands that went massive on Facebook originally, they had interesting ads. There was like that Squatty Potty one with the unicorn ad. Do you remember that one? There was the Dollar Shave Club, and there was a couple of other people who've been brought by Unilever for $1 billion. They all had ads that could be shown to a lot of people without people leaving the platform. And I'm not necessarily saying you need to have comedy in your ads or be that clever, but I'm saying that some of your ads will be more interesting than others, and you need to start working with Facebook how it wants to work, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the message there really is that what Facebook, going back to what you said at the start, the two gorillas, and take Facebook. Facebook wants you. It wants to keep you inside Facebook first. But it wants, and if you are going to do an ad, it wants the metrics and the maths to work, because it knows ultimately that you won't advertise if you're not getting the result. I mean, ultimately, That's the only reason we're advertising on Facebook is because we are getting a return. So it has to be giving it out. Otherwise, no one will bother doing it, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it like as a newspaper, if you were a newspaper at the height of newspapers and someone came along and said, I want to put an advert in your Sunday magazine, the editor of the Sunday magazine would be thinking, do I want this content in the magazine? Is this going to affect how people absorb the magazine? Is this going to ruin the Sunday? Or so, like, if you wanted to get an advert for life insurance or something like that into the magazine, you'd have to pay much higher than if you wanted to do an advert for a luxury resort in the Caribbean or something, because effectively it ties in with the narrative, it ties in with what they want to show. And so that's how Facebook works as well. It wants people to have a good experience and stay on the platform and come back to the platform again and again, and not think, well, I'm just going to get shown lifestyle ads and funeral ads and all that kind of stuff when you come to the platform. And so the ads that do a better job of doing what Facebook wants, they will give you a lower cost per reach. And a lower cost per reach will mean that you will get in front of a lot more people, particularly new audiences who don't know you yet. And you will get a lot more reach, a lot more audience penetration for the same amount of budget. So if you just look at the ROAS, if you just look at the return on investment, you might have a very good return on investment ad, but if you actually look at the cost per reach, you'll see that it's just bottom feeding. It's going after the same people over and over and over again, and it looks great, but it's what we call a manager ad. And a manager ad is there. Yeah.
Too expensive. Yeah. There's no reach.
It's like, it's basically secretly going, Ian, your ads are so boring that I'm only going to show it to your friends and family. I'm basically going to show this ad to your mother over and over again because she will put up with it and nobody else will. And that's like a really extreme example, but that's effectively what's happening. And if you are selling something like handbags, for example, there's some people who are obsessed with handbags who will just love to see handbag catalog ads all the time because I absolutely love handbags. And then there's people who like handbags but aren't that obsessed about it. And then there's people who kind of occasionally need a handbag and don't want it. So if you've got handbag ads that are just showing handbags, they're going to show them to the fanatics and then maybe a bit of the next audience, but they're not going to expand into the top level because they're going to go, if I show a handbag to those people, they're just going to be, this ad is too boring to actually get them enticed in the first place to the funnel. And so over time, what happens is that you just hammer that same audience, the fanatics of handbags, and then they've bought or they've decided not to buy. And you end up in a rut, basically. And so
it's so interesting.
That's what I'm trying to say. As I'm basically saying, your ads are not boring, but they could be.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay for some reason, but I think you really helped summarize because historically we've always said, look, there's an inherent difference between Google and Meta. In Google, there tends to be more intent; they're ready to buy. In Meta, there isn't. They might be there just to see what's going on in the local neighborhood but you can target the audience more accurately. But the other difference is that in Google, who can operate at the lowest ROAS wins, and in your industry, and if you've got a better average order value, or you've got a better margin, you've got a better lifetime customer value, you can afford to operate at a lower ROAS than your competitors, and that's really one of the success drivers. Is you can just be more aggressive. So I think what you've done is it's a really good way of summarizing the differences between Google and Meta, but the commonalities as well. And there's something really interesting that you've explained. I think is that in Google there's more intent, right? So people are searching for certain things, and really who can operate at a lower ROAS, a more aggressive ROAS, normally wins. But I know that in Google you've got the cost per click. So the cost per click in Google, the CPC, is based on it is a factor, isn't it? It is based on how relevant the ads are, how relevant your product titles are, basically how the click-through rate. People click through on your ads in Google because you've got a better, more optimized feed, you've got a better page type, it's more relevant, the images are better. It does, and obviously pricing in there as well. But but fundamentally, it Google. There's less of a problem in Google to get in front of people who are searching for your product names. I'm going to just summarize that. I think it's probably less of an issue, and you can pay to play a bit. Now, the problem with Facebook meta ads is that often people say is they can't get the ads in front of people. They often say that to me. They just can't scale. Like I try and push, I try and force, but I can't do it. And I think what you've really just summarized is really why that might be happening, is why you can't, because Facebook, unlike Google, where you're getting in the way of intent, Facebook, you're not getting in the way of intent. You're getting in the way of a potential audience member. They're not searching for products in Facebook. They're there for other reasons, to check on the local community, whatever their ex-girlfriend is doing, at that time of day. I mean, that might be why you're there, but you can get in front of that person, but it's that cost per reach that is the significant one, because that, if you can get the cost per reach lower, it's an indicator that it's an ad that Facebook likes, isn't it? And then you can get in front of those audiences, the newer ones. And I know it sounds, there's a few bits to it, because you've talked about cost per reach, and you did a really good workshop, the other week, which, everyone has absolutely raved about. They've really enjoyed the workshop you did. It was like a bit of an unlock, wasn't it? The cost per reach workshop. But it's, I think people listen to the podcast, if they could just understand, that might well be why you cannot get the scale and the volume inside Facebook, because Facebook, if it's a boring ad, it's only going to go to those local customers that are going to buy, probably going to buy anyway. And if you're trying to go top of funnel, you can't do it with the same type of ad content that you've been running at the bottom. It has to be something different, because Facebook just won't show it. It will not put it in front of people.
Yeah, and it's effectively, you'll see it particularly for the businesses we call compounders. So the more compounders they get, basically that means that more return customers you're getting. So you get these huge amount of customers, and so maybe your ads are like your sales are 90% existing customers, 10% new. Facebook will be very lazy in that, and it'll say, I'm just going to show this to all of Ian's friends. I'm just going to show the ads to Ian's friends because they like the ads, they'll click on the ads, they'll engage, they'll stay on the platform, and I'm just going to bottom feed all the time. And of course, you're saying, gosh, we need new customers, and our new customer ROAS is too low. We're not getting out. And when we increase spend on Facebook, we don't get any different. And the reason is for that is because Facebook's just not letting you out the gate. It's just you're in the same paddock, and you're just going around to the same animal over and over and over again, and just saying, "Hello, would you like some?"
That's particularly relevant to a compounder type of business. A compounder type of business, which we talked about before, is a business that has normally it's a lower average order value, high repeat. So cosmetics, supplements, health products, those kind of things people buy regularly, and they're normally very, very competitive on the first sale, but the lifetime customer value is there. So it's absolutely critical, isn't it? If you're a compounder style business, it's all about new customer acquisition. It's new. I mean, working with, there's a supplement food brand that's on the program right now, and that is it. It's just about new customer acquisition. And so therefore, in order to go find new customers, you have to work with Facebook. And the biggest indicator, I think, is the cost per reach. If the cost per reach is good, I mean, you said something the other week. You said, look, if the cost per reach, if you've got an ad that has a high cost per reach, but a decent ROAS, like let's say it's I'm making up a 2 a 2.5 ROAS, and you've got an ad that is half that, like 1.5 ROAS, but it has a much cheaper cost per reach, you'd prefer that one because you're able to put that ad in front of a lot more people and then get the same
fill the funnel
result out of it. You get the same. The ROAS is lower, but and you take that, and it's under so it's, rather than being a slave to ROAS, you're looking at cost per reach, particularly inside Facebook, Meta, Meta ads.
It's about categorizing your ad spend inside your own campaigns, inside your funnels, and working out where the spend is going. And you probably only want 25% going onto your bottom of funnel, and then 75% actually more prospecting stuff. Because otherwise, what will happen is you'll end up with 50% more spend going onto your bottom of funnel, and you're going to get those sales anyway.
Yeah. Super.
So, just in terms of a summary, we're not saying. I mean, we're saying that work with the platforms how they want to work. Google wants people to have a useful experience, to find what they need. Facebook wants people to have a useful experience, to enjoy coming back to what is basically an online magazine. But they realize that Facebook is an ad-supported model, so they have to have ads that support the model. And it's not the model that supports the ads. It's the ads that support the model. And the model of Facebook is keeping people there, enjoying it, and coming back over and over again. And if our ads are not supporting the model and actually pushing people away from Facebook, then Facebook's going to say, well, I'll serve your ads, but I'm going to serve them very expensively, and I'm only going to serve them to people that are probably not going to come back to Facebook very often anyway, and they're not very good. It's almost like you've got a very precious editor of that Sunday magazine saying, well, I'm not going to put an advert for a sewage plant in the middle of the Sunday magazine, because people don't want to see that when they're having their brunch on a Sunday morning. I'm going to put in something about, these amazing, beautiful clothing from this wonderful new brand in London, because that's what people want to see. So the only problem with that analogy is if you are selling sewage equipment, it's more difficult. But often in any industry, you just need to have less boring ads than your competitors, because all the time you are competing with the same people for the same traffic. You just need to have slightly less. So if I am selling sewage equipment, and obviously people are buying sewage equipment, obviously it's relative to everybody else's, isn't it? And sewage equipment, probably you're on Google anyway. You're not really on Facebook trying to find people to sell sewage equipment.
I'm sure there's
That's an
a
extreme
really
example.
creative ad about sewage, excrement. I'm sure there is. We shall find it.
Yeah. But it's horses for courses, basically. And there's a whole discussion about which channel to use for which type of brand, and we probably answered a little bit of that. But there's only certain brands that Meta will work for. There's only certain brands that Google will work for. There's a lot of brands that both Google and Meta work for both. And there's some brands where Pinterest works, and there's some brands where the other one, TikTok, works. But it's understanding that, and then understanding how those platforms work, how they survive, how they thrive, and making your ads support their model, and they will then reward you for it. And it's essentially like, do you want to sail into the wind, or do you want to sail with the wind behind you? That go with the flow of the river. Like, how do you want to run? And for each platform, like we teach in the programs, effectively what Google wants you to do, what Facebook wants you to do, what TikTok wants you to do. Everything is, we have to think about that first. And then once that's aligned, first of all, you can choose the right channel for your business. Second of all, you can work with that channel in the way that they want you to work with them.
I think, yeah. And I think in the workshop and the program, we have a lot more depth here, but the thread of it, sort of the helicopter view here, is that Google and Facebook they don't care about your business, and they don't care about you because there are thousands of businesses like you behind you trying to, giving Facebook and Google the money. I mean, have you ever had your Google Ads account, hacked, or your Facebook ads account hacked, or when your Google ads have been disallowed? Loads of people have, and you try and get hold of bloody Google to try and fix it. They do not give a crap about you.
I mean, and you'll be spending like £10,000 a day or something like that, and they'll be like, "Oh, we'll look at it next week."
Don't care.
They don't care,
and it's like, no, they don't care, and it shows that you have to understand what they want in order to grow and dominate. You cannot sit back and think, well, I want to operate like this. I want to give, they are the gorillas. Going back to the first words that you picked out, you said the gorillas, and understanding what they want, and that's the nub of it. Is teaching. We teach you how to understand what they want and reframing that conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
And then you'll do a lot better. Because stars are aligning when you're not trying to do something.
Well, it's like understanding. If you're doing, your exams, your dissertation, my tutor said to me, he said, you don't need to understand the subject, Ian. You need to understand this marking criteria. You need to know how we mark the exams. I don't want your opinion on this theory. I want you to show me that you've ticked the box. Then you're going to get top marks. And that's the same here with Google. You have to understand what the marking criteria is.
What is the marketing criteria? Yeah, what's the marking criteria?
And same thing for Meta.
It's a good
Figure that
analogy.
out. It's not wasting time. Okay. And that's what we try and teach. Okay.
And we'll be back next week with the next in the series. Do you know what the next one is? I shouldn't have said that.
It's good.
I don't know what the next one is. Hang on. We'll see what it is.
It's good to have a good polished podcast content studio, isn't it?
Here we are. Your follow-up game. Your follow-up game is limp. That's what I put. It's great titles.
Nice word.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
All right, Ian, I'll see you soon.
Look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Okay, bye.